O rare instinct, when shall I hear it all through? This fierce abridgment hath to it circumstantial branches, which distinction should be rich in. Hello, I'm here with Cymbln by William Shakespeare, part of ShakeTube, and I was trying to think about what I was going to talk about with Cymbln this week. Actually, even if I was going to talk about Cymbln, because I was very lazy. I've read Richard II, I've read Anthony Cleopatra, but I didn't think I was going to get a third play in. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll go watch something, and especially. And I was like, oh, Jason's doing Cymbln, and I haven't really heard much about Cymbln other than it's one of Shakespeare's kind of later plays, maybe one of his difficult plays as it goes. You don't really, at least I don't hear about it getting performed a ton. It's not in the upper echelon of Shakespeare, at least as in popular consciousness. But I thought, okay, I'll start trying to read it, and I started reading it, and wow, there seemed to be a lot of info dump at the beginning, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll try and find a production to watch. And I tried one, and then I tried another, then I tried like a fragment from the Royal Shakespeare Company, the scene where Gioconda, the sleazy Machiavellian Italian guy, stows away in a trunk in Imogen's room, and it really creeps on her, and it's very effectively done as an incredibly creepy, predatory act in that little fragment. So I went back. Okay, I'll go back to one of the other things where there's a full production, and I'll watch it. And I watched it, and it was like, okay, they're kind of playing it more for laughs, and you can see that that's in there. And I happen to be kind of scrolling through the comments, the YouTube comments of this thing, and actually, remarkably, in a lot of stuff like this, there's actually some good humored comments. But one of the comments was, "Oh, I see you've gone with the George Bernard Shaw ending in it. No Jove getting carried in by an eagle to the stage to have great visions and stuff like that." And I was like, "Oh, really, really?" And I kind of got to I was near the end of the play, and so I flipped open to the end of the play, and I read my version of Shakespeare, the actual Shakespeare version of Cymbeline. I read that, and then I watched the play, and I was like, oh yeah, this is quite a different ending, because in Cymbeline, what struck me most about the ending of Cymbeline, other than you're trying to just trim back stuff so you can get this freaking play done within an hour and a half or under 2 hours for the poor theater going on audience, not have like a 5 or 6 hour Hamlet production, which I'm sure is wonderful. I still have never watched the Kenneth Branagh full length Hamlet. Just sorry, Jason. Jason over at Old Blues Chapter and Verse is a big fan of a lot of the extendo. Is a big fan of Kenneth Branagh. I bet he's a big fan of that Hamlet. I still haven't gotten to it yet. But I was like, it's like, actually I was impressed because in Cymbeline, in Shakespeare's Cymbeline, Imogen at the end kind of does what a lot of Shakespearean heroines do, which is they fall silent and they seem to kind of accept their lot. Imogen takes back Posthumus, who had actually ordered his had ordered his servant to kill her, and she kind of at the end she sort of accepts him back and that. But in this version that I saw played, and then I went online and actually they trim back the George Bernard Shaw ending, Imogen kind of talks back. She gives him a hard time. Now, it is sort of, it's a tragic comedy, so at the end she does accept him back, but she gives him a hard time. She kind of gives him a what for there, which was like, oh, he's sort of indulged in what I think a lot of us, especially we did Much Ado About Nothing, and I was struck by how in the end there that is it? Oh, God, see, I'm Hero. I think it's Hero. God takes back Claudio, the scuzzball. I might be getting my names completely mixed up because I find names evaporate for me. But he takes him back without too much kind of like she falls silent. You have to infer a lot. I guess an actress can play with that a lot, but it does kind of come as the wordsmith has taken the words away from this character at the end. There isn't much for her to say. So it's interesting that George Bernard Shaw kind of indulged in this, did a rewrite on Shakespeare. And now there's actually, this is kind of an interesting thing in itself, is there's a long history of, in the putting on of Shakespearean plays, of changing the endings. I think King Lear famously has been given a happy ending. There's the word balderdize comes from Thomas Boulder, who with his sister put out the Family Shakespeare, where they took out all the objectionable bits, anything dirty in Shakespeare. And I think there was a prostitute in one of the Henry the Fourths that got kind of deleted or changed to a more respectable character. But I think about that with what we see nowadays when we see productions of the play, because they always have to chop it. They always chop it. They always edit it down, and movies doubly so. That there's that time thing. There's the what I guess maybe modern audiences could take in on the stage versus maybe if you're reading it on the page. So George Bernard Shaw actually was somebody who was really against rewriting Shakespeare, of making these endings to Shakespeare. But now we're all distracted. Yes, that's your ball. Yes. There. Now we're just gonna be playing ball for the rest of the video. But he was actually quite against writing endings to plays. But he actually said that he, initially at least, he really liked Cymbeline, but he thought it really fell apart in that last act. He thought the last act was just too many revelations. The the stuff with Jove and the ghosts was just like, this is he's kind of gone off his cart. And he said, kind of as a kind of a challenge to this was actually done as more of a challenge to theater companies to actually honor the text of Shakespeare, is he wrote kind of as a lark and another ending to Cymbeline. And funnily enough, though, he went back and he reviewed it again, and he was like, oh, now that I've read it, I think what I got influenced by was another theater company putting it on, and how they had kind of truncated parts, and now that I've seen the whole bit together, and it's like Shakespeare put on a mask in the middle of his play. He put on kind of a ritual display, which actually kind of enlivens all the Jove and the ghosts. That kind of enlivens things. It kind of, when you take that with he felt if you take it with the unity of what then comes next, he actually thought, oh, actually this does work. This actually does work. Shakespeare knows what he's doing, and he decried a long history of people going like, well, I know better than Shakespeare, and we're going to change the ending. So I don't think we have that nowadays so much, except for this actually a modern production that I think it was done in, I think it's an LA not a film company, an LA theater company production of Cymbeline, where they actually unironically used the George Bernard Shaw ending, and at least on everything that seems to be labeled there, don't mention the fact that they're doing that they're not using just straight Shakespeare, that this is Shakespeare / George Bernard Shaw that they're using. It's that there is a spirit. There's very much this spirit in theater, which is like, it's a collaborative thing, but it's the text, the time, the place. I often think about this in terms of how how a lot of Shakespeare has gotten used in the past, of like Henry V. Henry V was very famously put on by Laurence Olivier as a kind of a rallying cry for England during I think it's during the war. And so it's a very patriotic. They're emphasizing the patriotism, the kind of the unambiguous, how it's staged, how he puts it on, feeling of Henry V as the great leader of England, and maybe downplaying some of the darker, kind of more tyrannical or kind of Machiavellian politics that Henry V is playing in that play. So it's like, are these all? It's interesting. It's interesting how things get interpreted. It's interesting how much, even modern day, how much as a living part of the theater, how much Shakespeare still gets honored or gets discarded. It's acceptable to switch things around. I often think about this as sort of a Hollywood movie, where they're like, yeah, we're adapting it from a book, but we go through phases of exactly how welded we are going to be to the adaptation, and just like, and just, I can see with movie people, it's like, well, look, this might work on the stage, but it's not going to work on film. And there's also just like productions where you just go, look, this crowd has come in for an hour and a half play. Cymbeline is super long. We're going to chop all this stuff. We're going to put in this, and we're going to have a heroine at the end who doesn't fall silent, who actually speaks back to the guy who was going to have her killed because he thought she was cheating on him, which is, it's funny because I have to say, when I was talking to Much Ado About Nothing, because you talk back to the screen, you talk back to the stage, you talk back to the page. It was like, I was dissatisfied with that. I don't think I would rewrite it, though. I would argue with it. I mean, I guess I could write my own story and have a different ending, but that wouldn't be, I wouldn't then put that forward as Shakespeare. But a lot of times, I mean, it's the interesting thing with this collected works, is that it is a script. It is something to be used, and some people use it a lot more roughly than others, which is just another part of the wonderful experience of Shakespeare Tube, and just one that really came home to me with that thing of this fierce abridgment. There are every time I think I read Shakespeare, I probably am performing a fierce abridgment on it with my own limited imagination, and my own clumsy readings are fierce abridgments of this work. And it is only the next time I flip it open, I go, oh, is this the same play or not? Or did I read the abridged? It's like, well, it says complete on the thing, John. So, Jay, so I guess you did. All right. I'll leave it there. More videos later.